Back in 1999, the site at the corner of Durham and Orr Streets in Cobourg, with its dilapidated old stone building, was purchased by the newly formed charity named the Cobourg Museum Foundation. Over the next 12 years, the plan for a heritage center was developed and put into effect. The major tasks were the restoration of the building, the addition of an historic cottage, and the preparation of the grounds themselves. But a way of telling the stories was developed too. The design chosen was 30-inch by 30-inch story panels to be displayed in frames, specially created by volunteers. And the graphic designer who worked with us for each of the first 10 years was Steve Smiley of Port Hope. On June 9, 2012, over 12 years of planning, building, scrimping, and just plain hard work came to a resounding climax. The opening event started with speeches in Victoria Hall, followed by a parade to the center led by the Cobourg Concert Band, and ended with the guns of a crew of military reenactors. In between, organizers were joined by representatives of the Sifton-Cook families for the obligatory ribbon cutting. Once on site, the visitors were treated to the reading of an original poem by author and actor Mark Finnam.
There was a man named James Calcutt, and he was very fleet of foot. When Irish rebels sent him on his way, he came all the way to Canada with a tour-aye, fall-a-deedle-day, tour-aye. He came to Cobourg in 1832 with cash in hand, started life anew. He built a brewery which did quite well, and before too long he was a swell. And then one morning his wife did walk along the shore west of the dock, and what she saw gave her such a fright, 'twas a dead man's body, and a terrible sight.
Inside the center's exhibit hall, a professional 5-minute video introduced guests to the history of the building. In 2012, Cobourg was celebrating the 175th anniversary of its incorporation. So, naturally, for that initial season, the theme was Cobourg at Incorporation, 1837. Special events were held throughout the summer with guest teachers, speakers, and performers. It was a great start for this new venture. During the spring of 2013, a major addition arrived on site as George Parker created a model railway layout depicting the Cobourg and Peterborough Railway, which ran between those two towns and over Rice Lake. It was an instant hit. Coincidentally, the theme that year for the Heritage Center was transportation. Everything from snowshoe to airplane, seen here in a commissioned diorama, found a place. 12 panels were reserved for the story of Cobourg's railways and another 13 for its harbor. In conjunction with the transportation theme, the bright red Weller stagecoach made its first appearance, offering a backdrop for many pictures, including school outings. 2014 was the 100th anniversary of the start of World War I, and the military was that year's theme. There were stories of historic wars as well as the exploits of individual soldiers, a look at women in the military, and an exhibit on military art. Outside was a poppy garden. The theme chosen for 2015 was industry and commerce. It included everything from agricultural fairs to woolen mills, even industrial relations and accidents. 2 major historical industrial complexes, now known as the craft and the tannery properties, received special attention. It was during this year that a group of volunteers began industrially recreating an iron ore railway car from the old Cobourg, Peterborough, and Marmora Railway and Mining Company. It included parts of an original car rescued in 1980 after 99 years in the Trent River. The following May, The recreation was unveiled at the harbor to great acclaim and remains as a reminder of a significant chapter in Cobourg's industrial past. The 2016 theme of sports was somewhat more light-hearted, though clearly the effort expended on those sports was very real. A lot of attention went to individual participants in the Olympics and in the National Hockey League. But other sports, such as boxing and softball, were covered as well. The fundraising dinner that year heard from local Olympic rower and silver medal winner Jeremiah Brown. 2017 was another special year as Canada celebrated 150 years since Confederation. The Heritage Centre's theme that year was Cobourg and Canada. The idea was to celebrate local citizens whose influence was felt far beyond this community. In addition to historic personages, such as artist Paul Kane and Finance Minister Edgar Benson, a group of living artists made personal appearances. Multimedia artist Alice van der Vennen, painter Ron Bolt, carver Glenn McMurdo, and photographer John Deviser. Appropriately enough, it was that summer that 8 historic flags were raised at the Heritage Centre's entrance. They fly as a clear indication that this is an important place where history will not be forgotten. Local architecture took pride of place in 2018 with the theme Our Built Heritage. Every decade since the founding of Cobourg was given its own panel, with additional exhibits for architects and builders, for heritage buildings repurposed and for heritage buildings lost. Naturally, Victoria Hall was featured with 2 models, one of them in Lego. All this within the Heritage Centre's exhibit hall, probably the oldest built heritage artifact of all. Off-site, a contribution was made to the town's anniversary celebrations. The Heritage Centre's panels outlining the libel trial initiated by General Sir Arthur Currie were on display at Victoria Hall, where the play, Last Day, Last Hour, reenacted that trial. It was performed in the very same courtroom where the trial had actually taken place. The Heritage Centre was never envisaged as an institution for the collection of artifacts, but rather as a place for telling stories. Nevertheless, some artifacts had accumulated, and 2019 was chosen as the year to show them off and share the stories they tell, artifactually speaking. Every artifact has a history. Irons, keys, weapons, jugs, and a fairly modern game. Each one, and more, provided the opportunity to wonder and sometimes discover what stories they could tell given the gift of speech. Late that year marked the very unexpected arrival of COVID-19, and with it the prospect of a severely shortened season ahead. It was decided that for 2020, the Heritage Centre should present an 8-year retrospective. Panels and stories from the 8 previous years were recycled. At the very least, it provided an opportunity to celebrate the great variety of stories which are part of what we are today. From bowling to breweries, from friendly giants to prominent families, we are what we are because of who and what they were. In the hope of a more normal visitor season in 2021, personalities regained the spotlight. An amazing group with strong area connections were presented under the theme, The Heinous, the Heroic, and the High Flyers. These memorable personalities included a murderer, Dr. William King, a Governor General, the Honorable Vincent Massey, 3 entertainers, an explorer, a soldier, and a crusader. Then there were those rebellious characters, the Cobourg conspirators, whose story was turned into a 15-minute film. One highlight of that all-too-brief season was the unveiling of the Aboriginal Land Acknowledgement Plaque. The artwork, provided by Indigenous artist Rick Beaver, depicts the land we share in all its beauty. The Heinous, the Heroic, and the High Flyers provided a fitting climax to the first 10 years of storytelling at the Sifton-Cook Heritage Centre. The failures as well as the successes which make up this area's heritage have been set forth. But most of all, there has been a clear reminder that we stand on the shoulders of those who have gone before, and that we have a responsibility to tell their stories, and our own, to those who follow.